Get that old costume off, black man. You're embarrassing every real Marine who ever wore one. Officer Grant Harlow snatched the witness folder from Isaiah Coleman's hands and hurled it across the courtroom floor. 47 letters scattered over the polished tile. Photographs slid beneath the benches. A faded military medal struck a chair and spun in a slow silver circle. Isaiah did not move. Harlow planted his boot on an old platoon photograph. Then he pinched the frayed sleeve of Isaiah's 30-year-old dress uniform and pulled until the stitching began to tear. You expect this court to believe a black homeless man found a uniform and suddenly became a war hero? He leaned closer, smiling. Men like you didn't serve this country. You carried bags for the men who did. Then Harlow flicked one of Isaiah's faded medals with his finger. I've seen better decorations hanging from a child's Halloween costume. Maybe your dead friends would still be alive if they'd followed a real Marine instead of you. The room froze. Isaiah looked at the photograph beneath Harlow's shoe. Remove your foot, officer. Harlow laughed. Then the courtroom doors opened. One Marine entered, then another, then dozens more. Within seconds, hundreds of Marines stood silently behind the elderly black veteran. Harlow went pale. His hand fell away from the uniform. Nobody dared to breathe. Stay with this story, because what those Marines revealed would destroy more than one officer's lie. Tell us where you're watching from and your local time, and subscribe if you believe no one should ever face injustice alone. At 4:50 on a cold Monday morning, Isaiah Coleman woke before the alarm in the apartment above Coleman Harbor House. Rain tapped the narrow windows overlooking East Baltimore. Below him, pipes groaned inside the converted warehouse where 23 veterans slept in clean rooms that had once stored machine parts. Isaiah sat on the edge of his bed and waited for the pain in his lower back to settle. At 63, he had learned not to fight pain before sunrise. He breathed through it, reached for his wooden cane, and crossed to the wardrobe. A garment bag hung behind 2 gray suits. He unzipped it slowly. The dress uniform inside had not been worn in nearly 12 years. Its dark fabric had faded along the shoulders. A tiny burn marked the left cuff. 3 medals had lost their shine. The nameplate still read Coleman. Near the wrist, dark blue thread held an old tear together. His late wife Evelyn had repaired it at their kitchen table the night before his final deployment. She had complained that Marines could survive gunfire, but apparently not door handles. He could still hear her laugh. Isaiah touched the stitching with one finger. Still holding, he whispered. He had planned to wear a plain suit. A suit would attract less attention. It would keep the hearing focused on Malcolm Reed, the 22-year-old young man facing charges that could steal 15 years from his life. Then Isaiah remembered Malcolm's question from the previous evening. Did anybody ever stand up for you when you were my age? Isaiah had answered honestly. Not soon enough. So he put on the uniform. At 6:05, he entered the small office downstairs. He checked the folder Lena Brooks had prepared: employment records, counseling reports, certificates, and 47 letters from veterans and families Malcolm had helped. He added a plastic sleeve containing an old platoon photograph. Last, he placed a silver USB drive inside the folder's inner pocket. The video on it could change everything. Before leaving, he paused beside the lobby wall, where photographs of Harbor House graduates filled 3 frames. Malcolm appeared in the newest one, smiling beside a Navy medic whose apartment he had repainted. 6 months earlier, Malcolm had been sleeping beneath a highway overpass with $32 in his pocket. Isaiah had offered him breakfast work, then a room. Malcolm accepted the work at first. Trust came later. By autumn, he was managing deliveries and checking on veterans who missed counseling appointments. None of facts appeared in Officer Harlow's affidavit. The document described him only as unemployed, aggressive, and known to frequent troubled areas. Isaiah had read that sentence 12 times. Each time it sounded less like evidence and more like a verdict. At 6:40, Isaiah left Harbor House. A volunteer offered to drive, but he declined. He took the number 21 bus downtown, standing when an older woman boarded, because every seat was taken. She noticed his cane and told him to sit back down. "I've been sitting long enough," he said. He reached Baltimore City Courthouse at 8:17. Rainwater darkened the stone steps. His polished shoes slipped once, but a security officer caught his elbow before he fell. The officer was Deputy Marshal Thomas Avery, 55, broad-shouldered with silver at his temples. Avery looked at the insignia above Isaiah's ribbons. His expression changed. "Morning, Master Sergeant." "Retired," Isaiah replied. "Ranks don't retire in my memory." Isaiah gave him a small nod. A clerk directed Isaiah to Courtroom 5C and told him to wait at the witness table. The room smelled of old wood coffee and wet coats. Malcolm had not arrived. Judge Margaret Holloway was still in chambers. Isaiah placed the folder before him and rested both hands on his cane. At 8:31, Officer Grant Harlow entered with 2 uniformed officers. Harlow was 39, tall, heavy through the chest, and loud before anyone had spoken to him. He stopped when he saw Isaiah. Well, somebody took Veterans Day seriously. The other officers laughed. Isaiah looked toward the clock. Harlow approached the table. His eyes moved over the faded cloth, the repaired sleeve, and the worn wooden cane. "This area is for witnesses. I am a witness." Harlow smiled as though Isaiah had performed a trick. "Sure you are, Uncle. And I'm the Secretary of Defense." Isaiah said nothing. Harlow tapped one metal with the end of his pen. "What did these cost online, 1999, with free shipping?" One officer laughed again. The other looked away. "I was instructed to wait here," Isaiah said. "You were instructed wrong. Move to the back before the judge sees a homeless man playing dress-up at her table." Isaiah's gaze remained level. "My name is on the witness list." Harlow leaned closer. "Men like you always have a name on some list." The courtroom door opened behind them. Malcolm entered beside attorney Lena Brooks, his right wrist attached to a leather transport belt. He wore a borrowed navy blazer and carried himself carefully because his left knee still hurt from the arrest. He saw Isaiah's uniform and stopped. For a moment, shame crossed his face. "You shouldn't have worn that for me," Malcolm said. Isaiah answered, "I didn't wear it for you. I wore it for the truth." Lena placed her briefcase on the defense table and lowered her voice. "The prosecutor is still relying on Harlow's statement. They claim the body camera malfunctioned and the dash camera file is missing." Harlow heard her. "Some people are born guilty," he said. "Cameras only waste time proving it." Malcolm's jaw tightened. Isaiah studied Harlow differently now. Not as an arrogant officer, as a man protecting something. Lena noticed the silver USB drive when Isaiah opened the folder. "Is that from Dr. Walsh?" Isaiah nodded. Harlow's smile vanished. He stepped forward and reached across the table. "What exactly are you hiding in there?" His fingers closed around the edge of the folder before Isaiah could answer. Harlow tightened his fingers around the folder, but Isaiah did not release it. The old Marine remained seated, one hand on his cane, the other holding the cardboard edge with immovable pressure. "That folder belongs to the defense," Lena Brooks said. Harlow looked at her without letting go. "Evidence in a criminal case goes through law enforcement, not when law enforcement is the subject of the evidence." People in the gallery turned. Harlow noticed. His smile returned thinner now. "I am the arresting officer, counselor. You do not get to bring mystery drives into court and call them evidence." Lena stepped closer. You do not get to seize privileged defense material because you are nervous about what it contains. Harlow released the folder so suddenly that it snapped against Isaiah's chest. Nervous, he said. About him, he pointed toward Malcolm, as though the young man were an object entered into inventory. Malcolm lowered his eyes. The leather transport belt held his right wrist against his waist. His left hand remained free, but two deputies stood behind him as though he were violent. Harlow crossed the aisle. Tell your war hero what you did, Malcolm. He has read the report, Lena said. I want to hear the defendant say it. My client will not answer questions outside formal testimony. Harlow ignored her. Tell him about the medical equipment. Tell him how you stole $42,750 worth of emergency gear and attacked a police officer when he caught you. Malcolm's jaw tightened. Isaiah watched him. Tell me what happened. Lena hesitated, then nodded. Malcolm drew a breath. There was a crash on Pratt Street near the parking garage. An SUV jumped the curb and hit a light pole. Smoke was coming from under the hood. What time? About 10:40 at night. Harlow laughed. Listen to him. Malcolm continued. A woman was trapped behind the wheel. The driver's door was crushed. People filmed, but nobody approached because they feared an explosion. Isaiah's expression did not change. His grip tightened. There was a patrol vehicle across the intersection, Malcolm said. Its rear compartment was open. I saw a medical bag and a window punch. I grabbed both. You stole both, Harlow corrected. I broke the passenger window. I cut the seatbelt and pulled her through. Glass cut her neck. She was bleeding hard, so I used gauze and a pressure bandage. Malcolm looked toward Lena. She kept saying she could not breathe. I stayed with her until Officer Harlow arrived. And then Isaiah asked. Malcolm's face hardened. He saw me holding the medical bag. He told me to get on the ground. I tried to explain. The woman tried to explain too. Harlow folded his arms. Malcolm continued. He kicked my legs apart, twisted my arm, and pushed my face against the sidewalk. His body camera was blinking. Then he turned it off. That is a lie, Harlow said. Malcolm looked at him. You told me people like me do not rescue doctors. You said we rob them. The room quieted. Harlow stepped forward. Careful, why, Malcolm asked. You going to hurt me again in front of witnesses? One deputy behind Malcolm shifted uncomfortably. Lena placed herself between them. Officer Harlow, return to your seat. You do not order me anywhere. No, Lena said. But the judge will be here in minutes, and every word you speak is creating another reason for her to question your credibility. Harlow's nostrils flared. Isaiah opened the folder and removed a printed photograph. It showed a white woman lying beside a damaged black SUV, Malcolm kneeling near her with both hands pressed to a blood-soaked bandage. Her name is Dr. Emily Walsh, Isaiah said. Cardiothoracic surgeon, 46 years old, mother of 2. Harlow's face changed briefly. Lena saw it. The police report never identifies her, Lena said. It calls her an unidentified injured driver. She left before she could be interviewed, Harlow replied. She was transported unconscious. Then she was unavailable. She gave a statement from the hospital. Harlow stared at Lena. According to whom? According to Dr. Walsh. Malcolm turned toward Isaiah. You found her, Isaiah nodded. She contacted Harbor House after reading about your arrest. Hope appeared in Malcolm's eyes, making him look younger. She remembers everything. Harlow pointed at the OSB drive. And that is supposed to be her statement. It contains more than a statement, Isaiah said. Harlow stepped close enough for Isaiah to smell coffee on his breath. You are an old man who does not understand digital evidence. Somebody sends you a video, tells you what you want to hear, and suddenly you think you can walk into court and rescue another black criminal. Isaiah rose slowly. Pain crossed his back, but not his face. Malcolm has not been convicted. Men like him do not need verdicts, Harlow said. They need cages. A woman in the gallery gasped. Behind Harlow, Detective Ryan Cole sat alone near the aisle. He had entered quietly during the argument. Gray showed at his temples. His jacket was misbuttoned and his thumb rubbed a folded notepad. Isaiah met his eyes. Cole looked away. Harlow returned to the officer's bench, satisfied that he had reclaimed the room. Lena whispered to Malcolm, but Isaiah continued watching Cole. The detective's breathing was shallow. His hands trembled when he tore a page from the notepad. He waited until Harlow turned toward the prosecutor. Then he walked past Isaiah's table and let the folded paper fall beside the Marine's cane. Isaiah covered it with his shoe. When no one was looking, he bent down, picked it up, and opened it beneath the table. 6 words had been written in blue ink. The body camera was never broken. Isaiah folded Ryan Cole's note once, then slipped it beneath the lining of his folder. He did not look toward the detective again. A secret survived longer when nobody saw 2 men sharing it. Harlow, however, had noticed the movement. What did he give you? He asked. Isaiah rested both hands over the folder. Nothing that belongs to you. Harlow crossed the aisle slowly. Confidence had returned, but something sharper lived beneath it. He had heard Dr. Walsh's name and seen the USB drive. The case was moving beyond his control. You keep forgetting where you are, Harlow said. No, Isaiah replied. I know exactly where I am. Harlow stopped beside him and examined the old dress uniform again. His eyes settled on the left sleeve where dark blue thread repaired a tear near the cuff. This thing looks older than the courthouse. It has been places you have not. The answer was quiet, but several people heard it. Harlow pinched the sleeve between 2 fingers. Isaiah's posture changed. Release it. Harlow smiled, touchy about the costume. It is a uniform. That is what every fraud says. He pulled the cloth toward himself. One of Isaiah's medals struck another with a soft metallic click. Thomas Avery moved from his station near the wall, but Isaiah lifted one finger, asking him to wait. Harlow noticed the gesture and laughed. You giving orders now? Isaiah looked at the hand gripping his sleeve. I am giving you an opportunity. For an instant, the courtroom disappeared. He was 21 again, standing beneath white lights at Paris Island, while a drill instructor corrected the angle of his shoulders. He remembered being told that a uniform did not make a Marine larger. It made his obligations visible. Isaiah enlisted in 1981 when strangers judged a young black recruit before he spoke. He learned early that excellence did not always silence prejudice. Sometimes it only made prejudice more determined. Years later in Beirut, he entered a collapsing building after an explosion tore through it. Smoke had erased the hallways. Concrete fell like rain. His radio failed before he reached the second stairwell. 6 Marines were trapped inside. Isaiah went back 3 times. On the final trip, a steel beam struck his lower back and drove him to one knee. He could not feel his left foot, but heard a 19-year-old corporal calling for his mother. Isaiah crawled toward the voice. He carried that young man out as the eastern wall collapsed behind them. The injury never healed. It became the cane, the slow mornings, and the breath he hid when standing. Harlow knew none of that. He tugged the sleeve again. A medal slipped from its clasp and fell to the floor. It landed between them. The room fell silent. Every ribbon carried a face, a promise, and a debt still unpaid. That one important, Harlow asked. Isaiah looked down. They all are. Harlow nudged it with his shoe. The metal slid across the tile and stopped beneath a bench. Malcolm rose halfway from his chair. "Sit down," Isaiah said. The young man obeyed, though anger burned across his face. Harlow bent closer. "That is the problem with men like you. You collect old metal and expect the world to kneel." Isaiah's eyes lifted. "Nobody asked you to kneel." After Beirut came other deployments, other names, other folded flags. Isaiah served 28 years before doctors finally removed him from active duty. He returned with 2 Purple Hearts, a damaged spine, and no mission. Then Evelyn became sick. She fought cancer for 11 months. After she died, Isaiah stopped answering calls. He slept in his truck for 46 nights, even though he still owned a house. The men he once commanded found him, fed him, and refused to leave. They reminded him that surviving created responsibilities, too. With $8,300 from his savings, Isaiah rented an abandoned warehouse near the harbor. He repaired the first room. Coleman Harbor House eventually helped more than 600 veterans. 186 found steady work. 79 returned to families who had nearly stopped waiting. Malcolm had become part of that work. But Harlow saw only an old black man in faded cloth. His fingers moved toward the repaired stitching near Isaiah's wrist. "Who sewed this?" he asked. Isaiah's voice lowered. "My wife. Still living, no." Something ugly brightened in Harlow's eyes. He hooked one finger beneath the thread and pulled. The stitching snapped. A short section of fabric opened along the cuff. Blue thread drifted onto the floor. Isaiah caught the damaged sleeve against his chest. For the first time that morning, pain reached his face. Harlow saw it and chose cruelty. "Then maybe your dead wife should have used stronger thread." Nobody moved. A woman in the gallery covered her mouth. Malcolm's transport chain rattled as he surged forward, but Lena caught his shoulder. Thomas Avery took 2 hard steps from the wall. Isaiah raised his hand. "Not yet," he said. He bent, slowly picked up the loose thread, and placed it inside his breast pocket. His fingers remained there for one heartbeat, resting over the last thing Evelyn had repaired for him. Then he straightened. "You did not damage a uniform," Officer Isaiah said. "You showed this room exactly what your badge has been hiding." Harlow's face tightened. He reached down, retrieved the fallen metal from beneath the bench, and held it between 2 fingers. "You mean this?" Before anyone could stop him, he flicked it toward the gallery. It struck the wooden rail and vanished beneath the seats. Isaiah watched where it fell. Then he looked back at Harlow. "Move away from me." Harlow stepped closer instead, and this time his hand closed around the oldest photograph in Isaiah's folder. Harlow held the photograph by one corner and studied it with theatrical suspicion. 17 young Marines stood in 2 uneven rows beneath a desert sky. Isaiah was near the center, younger, broader, and unsmiling. "Nice picture," Harlow said. "Did the costume shop throw this in too?" Isaiah extended his hand. "Give it back." Harlow turned it over. Names and dates were written across the back in faded ink. "Some of these men dead." "Yes." "Convenient. Dead men cannot call you a liar." Malcolm jerked against the transport belt. Lena caught his free arm before he could step forward. Harlow dropped the photograph, then planted his boot across the faces. Isaiah looked down. "Remove your foot." "Or what remove it?" Harlow pressed harder, grinding the photograph against the tile. Real heroes do not need old pictures to prove they mattered. Isaiah's jaw tightened. His cane remained planted beside his right shoe. Thomas Avery moved closer. "Officer Harlow, step away from the witness." Harlow glanced at him. "You guarding the courthouse or collecting strays, I am preventing misconduct. You do not supervise me." "No," Avery said, "but I can testify about what I see." That answer drew several phones from pockets in the gallery. Harlow noticed them. Instead of retreating, he turned his anger toward Malcolm. The young man had crouched to gather the letters scattered near Isaiah's chair. One page contained a handwritten thank you from a veteran whose son Malcolm had found unconscious behind Harbor House. Harlow seized Malcolm by the back of his blazer. "Leave it. I am helping him. You are in custody." Harlow drove Malcolm downward with one hand on his neck. Malcolm's injured knee struck the stone floor. The sound was hard and flat. Pain crossed his face. A dark stain appeared through his pants. Lena stepped forward. "Take your hand off my client." Harlow forced Malcolm lower. "Stay on your knees. That is the only position men like you understand." The gallery erupted in angry whispers. Isaiah rose. The movement was slow, but the room seemed to rise with him. "Take your hand off him." Harlow looked back and smiled. "Or what? You will march your imaginary army in here?" "No," Isaiah said. "I will make sure the truth arrives before your lie becomes a sentence." Harlow pulled a folded document from his pocket and shoved it beneath Malcolm's face. "Read it." Malcolm stared at the page, read the sentence. Lena saw the heading. "That is a confession. He has never agreed to it." Harlow tapped the line with his finger. "I took the medical equipment because I needed money." Malcolm lifted his head. "I am not saying that. You say it now, and maybe the prosecutor stops at 5 years. I saved her life. You refuse, and I make sure you get 15. I can also have Harbor House investigated. Fraud, stolen donations, whatever sticks." Isaiah stepped around the table. Avery blocked Harlow's path to Malcolm, but did not touch him. "You have been warned," Avery said. Harlow released Malcolm, just as the chamber door opened slightly. He hauled him upright and announced loudly, "The defendant attempted to lunge at me." Nobody believed him. Detective Ryan Cole stared at the blood on Malcolm's knee. His face carried the exhausted shame of a man watching his silence become another person's wound. The chamber door closed again. Judge Holloway had not entered. Harlow returned to Isaiah's folder. He swept it from the table with his forearm. 47 letters scattered across the floor. He picked one up. "Thank you for saving my life," he read mockingly. "Thank you for bringing my son home." He looked at Isaiah. "You write these yourself, huh?" Harlow grabbed a yellowed envelope protected by a clear sleeve. Isaiah's expression sharpened. "Put that back." The letter had been written by Corporal Andrew Miller 23 hours before his final mission. His mother had given Isaiah the only surviving copy after Isaiah escorted Andrew's body home. Harlow removed it from the sleeve. "Dear Mom," he read, "if anything happens, Master Sergeant Coleman will bring us back." Isaiah took one step forward. "It does not belong to you." Harlow tore the letter in half. The sound was small. The reaction was not. Nobody moved because everyone understood that something irreversible had happened in plain sight. A woman cried out. Malcolm froze. Avery's hands curled into fists. Even the prosecutor looked away. Harlow dropped both pieces. "There. Now it is worth exactly what your testimony is worth." Isaiah knelt despite the pain in his spine. He placed the torn halves together and removed a strip of medical tape from his pocket. His hands were steady as he joined the page. "A coward destroys what he cannot earn," he said. Harlow's mouth tightened. A bailiff announced the judge's entrance. Everyone rose except Malcolm, whose bleeding knee nearly failed beneath him. Isaiah supported his elbow until he stood. Judge Margaret Holloway took the bench and surveyed the papers, the damaged uniform, and the torn letter. "Why is my courtroom in this condition?" Harlow answered first. "The witness created a disturbance, Your Honor." A woman in the gallery stood. "That officer did it." Harlow turned toward her. "Sit down before I remove you." Judge Holloway's gavel struck once. Officer faced the bench. Harlow obeyed. The hearing began. Under oath, he claimed Malcolm stole the medical bag, attacked him, and forced him to use restraint. Lena rose for cross-examination. "Where is your body camera recording equipment failure? Where is Dr. Emily Walsh's statement? She was unavailable. Why does your report say Malcolm struck your shoulder when your medical evaluation documents no injury?" Harlow's hands trembled. Lena lifted the silver USB drive. "Your Honor, the defense requests permission to play newly obtained video evidence." Harlow stood abruptly. That evidence was obtained illegally. Harlow's objection cut through the courtroom before Lena could insert the USB drive. Judge Holloway looked over her glasses. "On what basis?" "It was obtained without chain of custody, Your Honor." Lena remained standing. "It came directly from Dr. Emily Walsh, the woman Malcolm Reed rescued." Harlow turned toward the bench. "We cannot verify that." "We can," Lena said. "The file includes its original metadata, an email header, and a signed declaration." The prosecutor rose reluctantly. "The state requests time to review authenticity." Judge Holloway studied the silver drive. "You had 3 weeks to locate the injured driver. The defense found her in 4 days. I will conduct a preliminary review now." Harlow's face tightened. A clerk connected the drive to the courtroom monitor. The screen flickered blue, then opened on a rainy Baltimore street at 10:41 p.m. Headlights flashed across wet pavement. A black SUV sat against a bent light pole, smoke rolling from its hood. Malcolm appeared from the left side of the frame. He was not running away. He was running toward the wreck. The gallery leaned forward. The recording came from a pharmacy security camera across Pratt Street. It showed Malcolm reaching the vehicle, pulling uselessly at the crushed driver's door, then sprinting toward a patrol car parked near the intersection. He removed a medical bag and window punch from its open rear compartment. "He stole it," Harlow said. Judge Holloway raised one finger. "You will remain silent." On screen, Malcolm returned to the SUV. He shattered the passenger window, covered his hand with his sleeve, and reached through broken glass. Flames appeared beneath the engine. Someone behind the camera screamed. Malcolm climbed halfway into the vehicle. Seconds later, he dragged Emily Walsh across the passenger seat and lowered her onto the sidewalk. Blood ran from a wound near her neck. He opened the medical bag, pressed gauze against the injury, and kept one hand beneath her head. The room fell silent. Harlow entered the frame nearly 2 minutes later. He did not check the burning vehicle. He did not ask whether Emily was breathing. He pointed his weapon at Malcolm. The pharmacy microphone caught his voice clearly. "Drop the bag and get on your face." Malcolm raised both hands. "She is bleeding," he said. "Call an ambulance." Emily tried to speak. "He saved me." Harlow moved closer and kicked the medical bag away. "People like you do not rescue doctors," he said. "You rob them." Nobody in the courtroom moved. Malcolm stared at the screen as though watching someone else's life. His injured knee trembled beneath the defense table. The video ended when smoke obscured the pharmacy camera. Harlow stood. That proves nothing after the arrest. It cuts off before he attacked me. Lena faced him. It proves your sworn report begins with a lie. It proves he took department property to save a life. He had no authorization. Judge Holloway's voice sharpened. Officer Harlow, sit down. He obeyed, but his hands shook. The judge called a 15-minute recess and ordered the USB secured by the clerk. Harlow immediately approached the prosecutor, whispering with frantic gestures. Lena helped Malcolm into a chair near the side wall while Avery brought ice for his knee. Isaiah stayed beside the witness table. Ryan Cole remained in the third row. When Harlow left briefly to speak with his supervisor in the hallway, Cole crossed the courtroom. He held an old black phone against his palm. You wrote the note, Isaiah said. Cole nodded. The body camera worked for 11 minutes. Where is the recording? Cole looked toward the door. Officially deleted. Isaiah waited. Cole swallowed. My dash camera recorded the arrest from across the intersection. Harlow ordered me to erase it. I copied the file first. Why? Because I knew what he had done. Why did you stay silent? Cole's eyes dropped. A mortgage. 2 children in college. 22 years on the force. Pick whichever excuse makes me sound least like a coward. Isaiah's expression did not soften. How many nights did that silence cost you? All of them. Cole unlocked the phone. The video is here. It shows Malcolm cuffed before Harlow struck him. It shows Dr. Walsh identifying Malcolm as her rescuer. It also records Harlow telling me to remove her name from the report. Isaiah looked at him. Then give it to the judge. Cole's breathing became shallow. There are 9 other cases. Isaiah said nothing. Stops where cameras failed. Witnesses disappeared from reports. Evidence changed after booking. I kept notes, but I never filed them. You protected him. I told myself I was collecting proof. You were collecting time. Cole flinched. The courtroom door opened. Harlow returned and saw the phone between them. What are you doing? Cole stepped back. Nothing. Harlow crossed the room quickly and seized the device. Give that back, Cole said. Harlow examined the screen. His face went pale. Isaiah reached for the phone, but Harlow shoved him hard in the chest. The old Marine struck the witness table. His cane skidded beneath the defense bench. Gasps rose from the gallery. Harlow leaned over him. Old soldiers should know when the war is over. Isaiah pushed himself upright, one hand gripping the table. The war is over, he said. Your accountability is just beginning. Avery moved toward Harlow, but Judge Holloway's clerk appeared from chambers and announced that recess was ending. The prosecutor stared at the phone in Harlow's hand. Lena saw Isaiah against the table and raised her phone to record. Malcolm struggled upright despite his knee. Around them, witnesses began standing, not to leave, but because person in the room sensed that fear had changed sides. Then footsteps sounded beyond the courtroom doors. Not 10 people, not 50. The hallway itself seemed to tremble. The footsteps stopped outside courtroom 5C. For one suspended second, nothing happened. Then both doors opened. A tall man in marine dress blues entered first. His hair was silver, his shoulders square, and his face carried the disciplined stillness of someone accustomed to entering rooms where every detail mattered. Isaiah recognized him immediately. Captain Daniel Mercer. They had not seen each other in 19 years. Mercer stepped inside, removed his cover, and stopped 3 paces behind Isaiah. Another Marine entered behind him. Then another. Then 10 more. Uniforms filled the doorway, followed by veterans in dark coats, active-duty Marines in polished blues, women wearing gold star pins, and men whose bodies still carried the cost of wars fought decades apart. Nobody spoke. The line continued into the hallway. 20, 50, 100. Court officers moved aside without being asked. People in the gallery pressed against the benches to make room, but there was no room to make. Marines stood shoulder to shoulder along the rear wall. Others remained outside, visible through the open doors, filling the corridor, from the elevators to the stairwell. Harlow looked toward the entrance. The color drained from his face. His hand still held Ryan Cole's phone. Judge Holloway returned from chambers and froze before reaching her chair. "What is happening in my courtroom?" Mercer stepped forward. "Your Honor, Captain Daniel Mercer, United States Marine Corps, retired. We apologize for the disruption. Why are hundreds of people outside my courtroom? We came to attend a veterans memorial at War Memorial Plaza. When we learned Master Sergeant Isaiah Coleman was testifying here, many requested permission to observe." Harlow found his voice. "This is intimidation." Mercer looked at him for the first time. "No, officer. Intimidation requires a threat. We have made none." Judge Holloway studied the silent formation. "How many are present?" 312 inside the building. Your Honor, another 87 remain outside because courthouse security reached capacity. The prosecutor slowly sat down. Isaiah turned toward Mercer. "You organized this, no, Master Sergeant." "You did." Isaiah frowned. Mercer's expression softened. "Every man and woman here came because of something you did before today." Judge Holloway raised a hand. "Captain Mercer, this court will not permit a demonstration designed to influence a ruling." "Understood. We are not asking for favor. We are prepared to serve as character witnesses, if called, and otherwise remain silent." The judge looked at Isaiah's torn sleeve, the letters across the floor, and Malcolm's bleeding knee. Then she looked at Harlow. Officer placed Detective Cole's phone on the clerk's table. Harlow tightened his grip. "It contains department material." That was not a request. His hands trembled as he obeyed. Mercer's gaze moved to the photograph beneath Harlow's boot. "Remove your foot." Harlow glanced at Judge Holloway. She said nothing. He stepped away. A woman in her 70s entered from the hallway. She wore a black coat and a small gold pin shaped like a star. Mercer offered his arm, but she declined it. Her eyes settled on the torn letter Isaiah had repaired with medical tape. She stopped breathing. Isaiah saw her and lowered his head. "Mrs. Miller." Margaret Miller crossed the room. She touched the letter written by her son Andrew, then placed one hand over Isaiah's patched sleeve. "You brought him home," she said. Her voice barely carried. Isaiah answered, "I promised I would." She turned toward Harlow. She did not accuse him. She did not ask why he had torn her son's last words. She simply stood behind Isaiah and placed her hand over her heart. One by one, every Marine behind her did the same. The silence became unbearable. Judge Holloway looked toward Mercer. "Captain, identify this witness for the record." Mercer stood at attention. "Master Sergeant Isaiah Coleman, 28 years of honorable service, 2 Purple Hearts, Bronze Star with Valor, Navy and Marine Corps Medal, former tactical instructor and rescue operations leader." Harlow stared at Isaiah. Mercer continued. "In Beirut, Master Sergeant Coleman entered a collapsing structure 3 times and carried out 6 Marines. During a later evacuation, he coordinated the rescue of 11 service members and 6 civilians after communications failed. 17 people survived because he refused to leave. A young Marine near the doorway spoke. "I was number 17. Judge Holloway looked toward him, then back at Isaiah. Mercer pointed gently toward the repaired cuff. That uniform is not a costume. He wore it when he escorted 3 fallen Marines home to their families. The stitching Officer Harlow tore was sewn by Evelyn Coleman before her death. Harlow's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Isaiah did not look triumphant. He looked tired. Malcolm watched the hundreds standing behind the old man and understood something he had missed at Harbor House. Isaiah had never demanded respect because he had spent his life giving it away. Judge Holloway faced Harlow. "Did you damage this man's uniform? He provoked me. Did you tear Corporal Miller's letter? It had no evidentiary value." Margaret Miller closed her eyes. Thomas Avery stepped forward. "Your Honor." "I witnessed Officer Harlow seize the letter and tear it after being told who wrote it." Phones rose throughout the gallery. Harlow pointed at Isaiah. "He brought an army into court to destroy me." Isaiah finally answered. "No. They came because you tried to make one man stand alone." Behind him, nobody moved. Judge Holloway turned to Ryan Cole. The detective had risen from his bench. His face was pale, but his shoulders were straighter than before. He walked to the clerk's table, picked up his phone, and placed it beside the USB drive. For the first time that morning, Harlow looked not angry, but afraid of what silence had preserved. "Your Honor," Cole said, "this contains the part Officer Harlow prayed nobody would ever see." Judge Holloway ordered the courtroom doors closed. The Marines remained standing in the hallway, visible through the narrow glass panels. Inside, the clerk connected Ryan Cole's phone to the evidence monitor and placed the device inside a clear plastic bag. "Detective Cole," the judge said, "did you record this video? My patrol vehicle." "Did, Your Honor." "Has it been altered?" "No." "Why was it never submitted?" Cole looked at Harlow. "Because Officer Harlow ordered me to erase it, and I was too afraid to admit I kept a copy." The admission settled heavily over the room. A clerk stopped typing, and someone in the gallery began to quietly cry softly. Judge Holloway turned to the clerk. "Play it." The screen showed Pratt Street from the angle of Cole's parked cruiser. Rain streaked the windshield. Malcolm knelt beside Emily Walsh while smoke rose from the damaged SUV. Harlow entered the frame with his weapon drawn. "Hands where I can see them." Malcolm raised both hands. "She is bleeding," he said. "Please call an ambulance." Emily reached toward Harlow. "He pulled me out." Harlow ignored her. He kicked Malcolm's ankle, forced him face down, and pulled both arms behind his back. Malcolm did not resist. The video showed that clearly. His body remained flat against the pavement, while Harlow tightened the handcuffs. Then Harlow struck him, once across the ribs, again behind the shoulder. The second blow made Malcolm cry out. In the courtroom, Malcolm stared at the floor. Isaiah looked at him, but did not offer pity. Malcolm did not need pity. He needed the truth to finish speaking. On screen, Emily shouted, "Stop! He saved my life!" Harlow turned toward her. "You are confused, ma'am. I am a surgeon. I know exactly what happened." Harlow pointed at the burning SUV. "You suffered head trauma. I did not. Then understand this. If you interfere with an arrest, I can detain you too." Emily froze. Harlow lifted the medical bag and held it before Cole's dashboard camera. "Recovered stolen department property," he said. Malcolm raised his head from the pavement. "I used it to stop her bleeding." Harlow pushed his face down with one boot. "People like you always have a heroic explanation." A Marine near the back whispered a curse. Judge Holloway raised one hand without looking away from the screen. Silence returned immediately. The recording continued. Harlow moved beyond the cruiser's hood, apparently believing the camera could not see him. It could. He gripped his own shirt sleeve and tore the seam near his shoulder. Then he struck the metal edge of the patrol car with his forearm until the skin reddened. Cole's voice came through the recording. "What are you doing, Grant, building the report? You cannot say he attacked you." Harlow looked directly toward Cole's cruiser. "Turn that camera off. I cannot from here. Then delete the file when we get back." Emily was still speaking in the background. "That young man saved me. His name is Malcolm. Write that down." Harlow walked toward Cole. "Her name does not go in the report. She is medicated, confused, and unreliable. She is the victim. She is whatever the affidavit says she is." Nobody dared to breathe. The recording showed paramedics arriving. Emily repeated Malcolm's name 3 times before being placed inside the ambulance. Harlow told a medic that Malcolm had attempted to rob her after the crash. The video ended after 4 minutes and 18 seconds. The monitor went black. Harlow rose from the witness chair. "I need counsel." Judge Holloway's voice stopped him. "You need to remain where you are. This is an internal department matter." "No, officer. Perjury in my courtroom is my matter." Harlow stepped down anyway. Thomas Avery moved between him and the aisle. "Return to the chair. Get out of my way." Harlow's hand drifted toward his holster. Every Marine in the room noticed. Avery noticed first. He caught Harlow's wrist, turned him toward the rail, and removed his service weapon. A second bailiff took the magazine and secured it. Harlow froze. "You cannot disarm me," he said. Judge Holloway leaned forward. "I just did." His badge followed the weapon. Avery placed both on the clerk's table. The prosecutor stood pale and shaken. "Your Honor, the state requests an immediate recess to review potential disclosure failures." Denied. Judge: "This court will not use a recess to bury what was revealed in open session." Lena placed one hand on Malcolm's shoulder. The transport deputy unlocked the leather belt on Judge Holloway's order, but left the handcuffs until the charges were formally addressed. The clerk connected a laptop to the screen. Dr. Emily Walsh appeared by secure video from a hospital conference room in Boston. She identified Malcolm immediately. "That is the man who saved my life." She described the fire, the broken window, and Malcolm's hands pressing gauze against her neck. "Did Officer Harlow threaten you?" Lena asked. "Yes. He said I could be detained if I continued contradicting him." Emily then explained that she had donated $250,000 to Coleman Harbor House after learning where Malcolm lived. Malcolm turned toward Isaiah. "You never told me. It was not mine to boast about." Harlow shook his head. "This is pressure. People say things under pressure." Isaiah faced him. "Pressure does not create character. It reveals it." Judge Holloway ordered the phone USB drive body camera records, dispatch logs, and every document connected to Harlow secured. She directed the state attorney's public integrity unit to begin a criminal investigation and ordered immediate review of the 9 other cases Cole had identified. Harlow gripped the witness rail. Judge Holloway's expression hardened. "And Officer Harlow, the court has just received notice that those 9 cases may not be the full number." Judge Holloway's clerk handed her a printed message from the state attorney's public integrity unit. She read it twice. 14 cases, she said. Harlow gripped the witness rail. 14 what? 14 arrests connected to you with the same warning signs. Missing video. Unlisted witnesses. Evidence descriptions changed after booking. The prosecutor stared at the floor. Judge Holloway continued. 11 defendants were black. 2 were Latino. 1 was a homeless white veteran. In 9 files, body cameras were reported damaged. and 6 civilian witnesses vanished from supplemental reports. Harlow shook his head. Statistics are not proof. No, Lena said. But patterns tell us where proof was buried. A man in the gallery stood. He wore a grocery store uniform beneath his coat. My name is Jerome Ellis, he said. Officer Harlow arrested me 3 years ago. Judge Holloway looked toward him. Mr. Ellis remained standing. He said I reached for his gun. I never did. The camera failed. I took a plea because my public defender said a jury would believe a cop before me. What happened after the plea, the judge asked. I lost my warehouse job. My landlord evicted me. My daughter stopped sleeping at my apartment because her mother said I was dangerous. Another man rose near the rear wall. Darius Webb. He said drugs were under my seat. They were not mine. Harlow turned angrily. These men are convicted criminals. Isaiah answered from the witness table. That is what your paperwork made them. The Marines remained silent. Ryan Cole stepped into the aisle. I was present during the Webb arrest, he said. Harlow stared at him. Do not do this. Cole faced the bench. I saw Harlow remove a plastic bag from his pocket before searching the car. Darius closed his eyes. Why did you not report it? Judge Holloway asked. Because I was a coward. I told myself I needed more evidence. I told myself one complaint would disappear. I told myself protecting my career protected my family. Every excuse required somebody else to pay for my comfort. He turned toward Jerome and Darius. I am sorry. Jerome's face remained hard. Sorry does not return 3 years. No, Cole said. It does not. Judge Holloway looked across the courtroom. Officer Harlow committed the acts before this court. But misconduct survives when institutions reward silence, when prosecutors stop asking questions, and when colleagues confuse loyalty with concealment. She ordered Cole's notes, personnel files, dispatch records, and every related arrest transferred to an independent review team. Cole agreed to surrender his weapon and accept administrative suspension. Then Judge Holloway addressed Malcolm. Mr. Reed, stand if you are able. Malcolm rose carefully. Lena supported his injured arm. The video evidence proves you used emergency equipment to rescue Dr. Walsh. It proves you did not assault Officer Harlow. The state's remaining allegations are unsupported and infected by false testimony. The judge paused. All charges are dismissed with prejudice. Malcolm did not react immediately. Freedom had been promised too many times. Lena whispered, "It is over." The transport deputy removed the handcuffs. The cuffs opened. For the first time since his arrest, Malcolm breathed without feeling a hand waiting to close around his throat. Malcolm stared at his wrists, then covered his face. Isaiah placed a hand on his shoulder. Judge Holloway ordered the arrest record expunged. She directed the city to return $12,500 in bail-reimbursed documented legal expenses and preserve Malcolm's right to seek compensation for lost wages and injuries. The prosecutor rose. The state does not object. You should do more than not object, Judge Holloway said. You should determine why your office trusted a report that excluded the rescued victim. The prosecutor sat down. 2 investigators from Public Integrity entered through a side door. Avery handed them Harlow's badge and weapon. One investigator approached him. Grant Harlow, you are under arrest for perjury, evidence tampering, assault, obstruction of justice, and witness intimidation. Harlow recoiled. You cannot arrest me based on one hearing. The investigator placed his hands behind his back. This hearing gave probable cause. Your own recording supplied the rest. Handcuffs closed around Harlow's wrists. He looked toward the Marines, then at Isaiah. "You brought an army to humiliate me." Isaiah met his eyes. "No, you humiliated yourself. They came because none of us should stand alone." Harlow searched for another insult, but nothing came. Every face in the room reflected the same judgment. As investigators led him toward the side door, several people began to clap. Daniel Mercer raised one hand. The applause stopped. "Justice is not entertainment," he said. "Let the record speak." Harlow was taken away without cheers. Malcolm turned to Isaiah. "I thought you were an old man hiding in the past." Isaiah glanced at his torn sleeve. "The past matters only when it helps someone reach a future." "I am sorry." "Then become the man your apology describes." Malcolm nodded through tears. Margaret Miller recovered Andrew's repaired letter and placed it inside its plastic sleeve. Avery gathered the remaining papers and handed them to Lena. "All 48 letters are here," Lena said, except the one he tore. Isaiah glanced at the stack, but said nothing. Outside the closed doors, news of the dismissal moved down the hallway. Marines shifted quietly, making a path for Malcolm. They simply opened space for him. Daniel Mercer approached, carrying a rectangular wooden box darkened by age. "There is one more thing," he said. Isaiah recognized the carved insignia on the lid. His hand froze above it. "I thought this was lost." "It was never lost," Mercer replied. "We were waiting for the right day to return it." He placed the box in Isaiah's hands. Inside rested something the old Marine had not seen in more than 30 years. Inside the wooden box lay a weathered Marine unit emblem, its bronze surface darkened by time. 17 names had been engraved on the back. Isaiah touched the first name with his thumb. Andrew Miller. The other 16 belonged to the Marines and civilians he had helped carry out of burning buildings, collapsed streets, and damaged vehicles across 3 separate operations. Isaiah had believed the emblem disappeared during his final deployment. Daniel Mercer watched him silently. "The survivors kept it," Mercer said. "Every few years, someone suggested returning it. We always decided the right day had not arrived." Isaiah looked at the men and women behind him. "And today we watched you save another life without firing a shot." Malcolm stood beside Lena, rubbing the pale marks the handcuffs had left around his wrists. Isaiah lifted the emblem from the box, then held it toward him. Malcolm stepped back. "That belongs to you." "A uniform belongs to the person wearing it," Isaiah said. "Honor belongs to whoever accepts the responsibility." He placed the emblem in Malcolm's palm. "A uniform means nothing if the person inside it forgets who they serve." Malcolm closed his fingers around the bronze. For the first time since the charges were dismissed, he understood freedom not as escape, but as an obligation to become worthy of those who had defended him. Outside the courthouse, rain had stopped. Reporters crowded the stone steps, but Isaiah refused every interview. He guided Malcolm through a side entrance where Harbor House volunteers waited with dry clothes, food, and a medical appointment for his injured knee. By evening, the pharmacy video had been shown across Baltimore. The image of Malcolm running toward the burning SUV replaced the booking photograph that had defined him for weeks. Dr. Emily Walsh released a statement calling him courageous, disciplined, and responsible for saving her life. She also announced that her $250,000 donation would establish an emergency medical training program at Coleman Harbor House. Malcolm asked to enroll first. He began classes 3 weeks later. His knee healed slowly, but his confidence returned faster. He learned trauma assessment, airway management, bleeding control, and emergency communication. When lessons became difficult, Isaiah reminded him that courage without training could save one person, while courage with discipline could save hundreds. The program became the No One Stands Alone initiative. Within 6 months, 74 Baltimore residents completed basic emergency response training. 12 were formerly homeless veterans. 9 had criminal records. 4 later joined ambulance services. Malcolm earned the highest score in his class. 4 officers were suspended for withholding reports or ignoring misconduct. 7 convictions were vacated. 2 families regained access to housing benefits lost after wrongful arrests. Jerome Ellis received a new hearing, and Darius Webb's conviction was dismissed after laboratory records proved the drugs entered evidence 2 hours after his car had been searched. Harlow was formally indicted on multiple felony counts. His attorney blamed stress, poor supervision, and department culture. A broken culture may explain opportunity, Judge Holloway said. It does not erase choice. Ryan Cole became a cooperating witness. He surrendered his badge, accepted suspension without pay, and testified in every reopened case. Some called him brave. Cole refused the word. Bravery would have been speaking the first time he told a police academy class. What I did later was repayment. Baltimore changed its evidence procedures. Body camera files began uploading automatically to an independent server. Officers could no longer remove civilian witnesses from reports without written justification. Prosecutors were required to document every missing recording before filing charges based primarily on police testimony. Margaret Miller visited Harbor House 1 month after the hearing. Isaiah had Andrew's torn letter professionally repaired and framed. He offered it back to her. Keep it where young people can read what loyalty looks like. 1 year later, Malcolm graduated as a certified emergency medical technician. The ceremony was held at War Memorial Plaza under a clear November sky. Isaiah attended in the same old uniform. The sleeve had been repaired again, but not perfectly. A visible line of blue thread crossed the cuff where Evelyn's stitching had been torn. His medals remained faded. The cloth still carried the burn near his wrist. Hundreds of Marines stood behind him once more. This time they were joined by paramedics, Harbor House residents, wrongfully accused families, and police officers who had volunteered for the new accountability program. Malcolm crossed the stage in a dark blue emergency services uniform. After receiving his certificate, he walked directly to Isaiah. "I used to think you lived in the past," Malcolm said. Isaiah smiled. "And now I know you were carrying people out of it." Isaiah closed Malcolm's hand around it again. "Keep it until someone else needs to understand." After the ceremony, a young Harbor House resident approached Malcolm. The boy was 19, frightened, and facing his first job interview after months on the street. "What if they see where I came from?" he asked. "Then make them see where you are going." Across the plaza, Isaiah heard the words and looked toward Daniel Mercer. Isaiah had spent his life believing strength meant carrying weight without complaint. Age taught him something better. The strongest person in any room was not the one everyone feared. It was the one who made sure nobody else had to be afraid. Isaiah and Malcolm left the plaza together. Sunlight crossed the repaired sleeve of the old uniform. The medals did not look new. They looked honest, life lesson. Dignity does not fade with age, poverty, or an old uniform. Injustice grows when cruel people act and decent people remain silent. Real honor is choosing to stand beside someone before the crowd arrives. Tell us where you are watching from, share what courage means to you, and subscribe if you believe nobody should face injustice alone.